I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Toronto-based multi-instrumentalist and psych rock artist Rise Carmine, aka Liam Colbert, is back on the podcast for his second chat. When we spoke last in November, he was just about to release the EP Coming Closer, but now we're regrouping to chat about his latest album, Under the Red Light. Liam, welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
So, we last spoke 9 months ago when you were about to release the EP. What's been going on since then?
Yeah, so we've been gearing up for this album release and, getting excited to put like a full body of work out into the world. And just releasing singles sort of every month or two and getting people excited for this album Under the Red Light, which has just been released. And looking forward to playing some shows this fall, going on a little tour to Eastern Canada. And more music after that as well.
Excellent. What I remember most about the last interview was your 52 factorial thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Still in your head every day?
Every single day, yeah.
For anyone that missed that, please check back on the episode because it's explained quite well, but there's many, many videos across the internet about this, so well worth checking out and finding out what the heck that's all about.
Yeah.
So you've said in an interview that your biggest fear is not being able to make music at all. But what would your dream job be if you weren't a musician?
It would probably be still something to do with being a creative person. I grew up painting when I was younger, and it's something I don't do quite as often these days, just because I don't, have as much time. But I remember, I think actually before I really got into music, I was doing an after school program, and it was like 5 minutes from my house. And I think on every Wednesday after school, I would just drop into this art school. And it was like this little world that I loved inhabiting, because I was going to St. Michael's Choir School at the time, which is in downtown Toronto, and it's a choir school. So we were like singing in the choir every day. And I would come to this after school program, and it was me and about 10 other kids my age, just like young teenagers, who were all planning to go to like art school as their like post-secondary university or college program. And so they were all like super artsy kids, and it was like a whole different world to me. But we would just kind of get together with a teacher on Wednesdays, and we would just paint for like 3 or 4 hours. And I remember it being so fun. And I remember thinking like, maybe I want to do this too, But then I got super into music, and I drifted away from that and all of those friends that I had made. But that would probably be my answer. I would just be painting.
So it's got to be something creative with you. That's just the way your brain functions, is it?
It has to be, yeah. I have to be making something.
Okay, let's talk about the album. The album is Under the Red Light, which is out now. Tell me a little about it, the themes, the moods, etc.
Well, I would say a big theme within the album is it's a bit of a darker album. And so some of the themes are like duplicitousness and like lies and deceit, and the lies that we tell ourselves and tell each other, and the lies that, our government can often tell us, and things that are tucked away under the shadows and out of sight, sort of exploring that kind of imagery. And the sounds kind of, I feel, evoke that imagery as well. There's a lot of like driving bass lines and very like trancey grooves that sort of build over time. So yeah, I was sort of in that headspace, I would say.
It's a relatively short album, under 30 minutes and just 7 songs. What was the theory behind that? Was it just that's what you had written at the time, or is it a let's leave the people wanting more, or something else?
Yeah, it's definitely more of the latter. I have a ton of music written in various stages of recording. Some of it's, going to be ready to go very soon. So this was definitely more of a give people a taste and allow them to sort of grab onto an album that doesn't demand, an hour of their time. Gives them some sort of like a little bit of just like a taste of what is to come. That said, I am planning on sort of putting together the EP from last year and this album and sort of putting out a big kind of, 11 song deluxe album within the next couple months to kind of like cap off everything that's been released over the past couple years. And then, yeah, I have a couple albums in the pipeline that are, definitely closer to like 10, 11, 12 songs, 45, 50 minutes, that kind of thing. I do love a long play album. I love putting on albums. I always have. So that's kind of where I would like to be. But for this one, it was definitely, let's put something out that is a little bit more like palatable for people if they've never heard of the band.
Yeah. Is your plan to sort of keep plugging away and releasing singles every few months, even after this has come out?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's just sort of the landscape these days. If you're not releasing every couple months, you may as well not exist, I guess. But I am also happy to play that game because I do enjoy the fact that you can give each song sort of like its moment in the sun, Say what you will about, the musical landscape right now and the fact that we have to constantly be, reminding people that we exist. But I do like the fact that you can put out a song and make it special. And you could essentially do that for every song that you write. That is kind of cool.
So I touched on the fact that I can hear many genres across your music last time we spoke, but this album bounces around between styles and is still very much a structured work that flows really, really well. How did you do that?
I've definitely toyed with like lots of different genres and styles of music throughout the years, but I guess the answer to your question is just that I have kind of honed in on something that makes me as I've gotten older. And so it doesn't really matter what kind of like music I make, like what genre or style, it's always going to sort of like point toward a North Star that is like just my musical taste, I guess. But I guess like practically the answer to the question is that while they sound fairly different, they do all play along this repetition. Like they're all kind of informed by like dancey electronic structures, I guess you could say. Like I think of the song First Love, which is kind of like, it's got like a bit of like a techno beat under it if you really wanted to get technical. But that sort of like repetitive trancey groove exists in songs like She Knows as well, right? Which is more of like a rock song. The bones of each song sort of come from the same place.
So when I spoke to you back in November, was the album already fully recorded?
Yeah, it was. It was. I think it needed to be, like the finishing touches needed to be put on the mix or the master, but it was pretty much done. I've been sitting on these songs for a couple years now.
I was just going to ask, how frustrating has it been to have to sit on these for so long? Because obviously you seem like somebody who's constantly writing and constantly creating. So when you've got new stuff that you want people to hear, but you've got to play the old stuff, that must kind of get a bit frustrating at times.
Totally, yeah. It's definitely, it's tough. You always want to kind of be moving forward. And, there's no better time than when you've like just written a song and it's fresh and you're like so excited about it. So like to wait for, months, sometimes years to go from that moment to actually finally releasing it out into the world, it can get all distorted in your brain. You're like, why did I even write this song? But at the end of the day, it just feels really nice to like get the songs out there. But yeah, I am somebody who's like constantly writing. So I have tons of new ideas and new songs that I'm working on right now.
So what was the easiest and what was the most challenging song on the album, and why?
I think the easiest song on the album to do was Chemical Peel. And that was the last one I did. And it was initially going to just be like an acoustic guitar and vocal. And that would have been super easy to record. But I think it was the easiest because I was able to do it the quickest. It was the last song that I needed to do for the album. And, like I said, these songs had been recorded probably a year ago. And Chemical Peel, I just recorded a few months ago. And so it was really nice to be able to record a song quite quickly compared to the other songs and, not think too much about the production choices and the mix and all of that. And the other fun thing was I did the entire process. So I obviously wrote the song, but I recorded it myself. I mixed it myself. I did all the production, and then I sent it off to get mastered. It was very much me taking it from point A to point Z the whole way. I think the hardest song would have been First Love, because I recorded it in a much different way than I usually record songs. I guess because it's not just like a straight ahead, rock song. It's kind of dancey, and then it has sort of like a part A and a part B that I figure out how like a way to sort of transition from one to the other. And it's very much like a patchwork of ideas and grooves and sounds that sort of like builds on top of each other. Very much in sort of like the electronic world, I guess you could say. But that song was definitely the hardest because I had to sort of like patch it all together as if it was like a collage, but very satisfying once you kind of get all the pieces together.
Well, you mentioned Chemical Peel there. It's my favourite track on the album, I have to say. And to me, there's a very strong Jeff Buckley vibe in there. Has anyone mentioned that to you?
Yeah, you know what? I've gotten that quite a bit over the past few months.
I think it's just the way you're playing the guitar and things. It's got just a really great, strong Buckley vibe to it, and I love that.
Thank you. I love that too. I'm never going to be mad about that comparison. Yeah, I played that song. I did like a solo set recently, which was really fun to do. But after the show, I had quite a few people come up to me and say, it was like really nice, first of all, to be able to, hear your voice. Because not often, every other time I play, I'm with a full band, right? So it can get very loud and my voice can get drowned out. But yeah, people were saying it was very nice to be able to hear your voice and the lyrics and the vocals. And then I got compared to Jeff Buckley a few times. So there's no better comparison.
I'm not going to talk about live shows yet, but you just mentioned about playing solo. How different is it playing these songs really stripped back and solo? Because, you've written these songs to be quite big songs, with possibly the exception of Chemical Peel.
It's definitely an interesting sort of challenge trying to figure out how to, get like the essence of the song across when you don't have all of the like production going on behind it. And I think with some of these songs, it's taught me like a valuable lesson in, making sure that the song can be played on just an acoustic guitar or just a piano. And for the true sort of, like I said, the essence of the song to come across to people when they're just hearing it like that. And I realized that some of these songs, it was kind of like hard to get them to be played just on an acoustic with me singing over top. Songs like She Knows, like as much as I really love that song, it's kind of a tough song to pull into like a solo acoustic world. And to me, that says something about the song itself, where if it can't transcend the production that I've put on it, maybe there's something lacking there in like its universality. And so if you like reverse engineer that, you can say like, okay, how do I write songs in the future that can be like played just on a guitar, but also blown up with all of this production? And I think that's starting with just the guitar, right? Not to say that songs that can't be played just on an acoustic guitar are bad, but I think there is something very nice about a song that like is versatile like that. So with a lot of the new stuff I've been writing, I've been really trying to make sure that like I'm starting from like just a very good song that can, you don't even need a guitar. You could just like sing the melody and it's super strong.
Okay. So what song are you most proud of on the album and why?
I would say I'm most proud of Violence. That's actually another song that I did everything for. I wrote the song, recorded it, and then I mixed it. And the only thing I had somebody come in and do was the final master. And that's kind of moving forward how I would like to be recording most of my music, because I just find it to be like so fulfilling knowing that like every single thing you're hearing was done by me. To go back to painting, I remember hearing an interview with Kevin Parker, Tame Impala, who famously makes all of his music that way, where like it's just him and he's making all the choices. He likened making music to painting. And he said, I definitely love collaborating. I love working on things with people. But when it comes to my own music, when it comes to like me expressing what's inside, if I see it as a painting, I'm not going to ask somebody else to pick up my brush and add to my painting, That doesn't really make sense for him. And so I heard him say that in an interview, and it kind of, this light bulb went off, and I just thought like, oh, wow, like that's how I feel, I love being in collaborative spaces, but when it comes to this music, which I sort of see as like my diary, if I bring other people in and I have them play instruments and add production ideas, I obviously trust that those ideas will be good, but I just feel like I lose a little bit of what I really loved about the song in the first place. And so I really enjoy being able to take the song from the kernel of an idea all the way to like a finished song. And sometimes in the past that hasn't been possible, maybe like playing the drums has been too difficult, or there was just some thing I wasn't able to sing or whatever. But at this point I can do everything, and I can do everything very competently. And I'm just very stoked about that. So, I'm working on a new album right now, and I'm just going into the studio myself and doing everything myself. And I love that process. Violence is a song where that's what I did. And I also I love the song, and I think it's super cool. And it's one of those songs where like, if you're listening to it when you're like strutting down the street, it just makes you feel cool. And it's probably my favorite song on the album.
Okay, you have a t-shirt on your website, which is very cool, but despite being red, it's very metal. You know the one I mean, I assume?
Yeah. With the vertical logo.
That's the one, yeah.
I guess it is kind of metal, yeah. It's just verging on indecipherable.
Yeah, that's what I thought metal, I think, because I went to a metal festival a couple of weekends ago. I was like, I can't understand 60% of these band names, but the shirts look cool.
Yeah, there's something about being in a metal band and being completely undiscoverable on the internet.
Yeah.
That comes with the territory.
Is that what you were going with your t-shirt as well?
I definitely wasn't going for indecipherable, but I had a friend draw that logo up, and I thought it was really cool. And it has this sort of like ripple that goes through the middle of it. And it looks cool horizontal, but when you flip it so it's vertical, the ripple acts like a drip that goes straight down the middle. And I thought that was really cool. So I think it looks very cool, but it is kind of hard to tell what.
You see, I kind of saw it more as a wavelength than a ripple.
Oh, yeah.
Like almost like the SoundCloud logo type of thing.
Yeah, you could definitely see it that way too.
Well, maybe you should write one track that's a bit more industrial, and you can get on at the metal festivals and sell that t-shirt out.
There we go. Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Okay, let's talk about your live shows. You've been playing quite a few shows since I last spoke to you. How's the reaction been to the live show?
It's been very fun playing these songs. We've been playing them for a couple of years now, honestly. And, they've kind of like grown with the band as well. So it's been really cool to, be able to play like the full productions live. And I have some Unreal players that I've played with over the years. And the lineup right now has sort of solidified, which is really nice. They all come with their own influences and taste, and they play the parts that I've written, but they sort of make them their own, and it's very cool to kind of hear. And they're all just like unbelievable players, so it really like brings to life the parts that I've kind of written, and I get told all the time by people who play my music, they're like, yeah, these are some of like the most deceptively like hard parts that I've ever had to learn. I'm always like, oh, I don't know what you mean. Like, I just wrote songs,
You've put a few clips of your live shows on Instagram Reels and things. Have you got any plans to put some full live songs on YouTube at some stage?
So we actually just did a live shoot with Collective Arts, who's like a brewery in Toronto. And they also are just kind of like ambassadors of like the music scene here, which is really cool. But they were doing a sort of like a live session series where they would bring bands into a studio space owned by Lacquer Channel, who is a local mastering like engineering company. So they set up their sort of like the main room of their studio to be like a live session recording space, and they recorded us playing some tracks live to tape, which is really, really cool. But so that was a couple weeks ago that we shot that. So that'll be being released very soon. So we'll have some like full run throughs of the songs live to put up, which is really exciting.
Yeah, and it also very much helps to sell the live show as well if people can see you doing it live, because I think, especially with your music, there's so many little electronic nuances in the tunes that it's difficult to visualize.
For sure. And the songs definitely take on a different sound live, which is really cool. So it's, you got to see the show live for sure.
Well, I was going to ask about that. It's the next question, actually. How do you translate these songs to the stage when you've just got guitar, bass, and drums and vocals?
It's something we've talked about quite a bit. So I'm playing guitar and singing, and then the bass is so important. So like Devin, our bass player, has to really hold it down as well as figure out how to get his sounding as close to the album as he can, and just like taking up quite a bit of space because the bass is so prominent in my songs. But I would say the real magic happens with Joel, who's kind of doing a dual role as guitar player and playing some keys. He's kind of doing like the Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead thing, where depending on the song, he'll either be playing just guitar or just keys, but sometimes he'll be like switching. So he can like play a guitar part and then switch over to the keys and change a bunch of settings on his keyboard and play like a synth bass line and then go back to the guitar. So he's kind of doing a bunch of stuff all at once in the middle of a song. But that's kind of how we're able to translate these songs live. So without him, it definitely wouldn't be, it would be sounding a little bit thin, but he really has worked hard to like figure out exactly what he should be doing in order to make the songs like come to life live.
As we've mentioned, you've played quite a lot of live shows recently. Which one of those stands out as having been the best show for whatever reason?
We just recently played a music festival here in Canada, in Ontario, called Burlington Music Festival. Or I guess it was called Lakeshore Music Festival, sorry. And it's right on the lakeshore of this city called Burlington, which is just outside of Toronto. And so it's right on Lake Ontario. It was middle of the summer. It was a beautiful scene. And, we're playing on a nice big open air like festival stage. And we had great sound and it was just a beautiful day. And it was the first show we had played in a little while. And it was just like, one of those shows that just felt very very special because our set has kind of been dialed in. The songs were just sounding great, and I just felt really good that day.
So what have you got coming up in terms of live shows? Is there you mentioned there's an East Coast tour coming up?
Yeah, so East Coast of Canada, we're going from Toronto through the provinces to the Maritimes here in Canada. So out to Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, Quebec, playing a bunch of shows in September. And then we're playing a new music festival here in Toronto, which is called Second Summer. And that's also at the end of September. And then we're playing an album release party at the end of the summer as well.
So lots coming up, lots of chances for people to see you over there.
Absolutely. And hopefully we'll be jumping across the pond soon as well.
That would be great. I will definitely come and see you if you make it to Europe.
Hell yeah.
Aside from the live thing, we briefly touched on the fact that you're constantly dabbling with new music. What is next?
There's a huge library of songs that I have on my computer that I'm working on right now. And I have the pretty much like an album that is pretty much like 80% done. All of like the instrumental, I guess you'd call them, tracks are done. I'm going to the studio soon to do vocals on them. And it's about an hour of music right now that I'll probably, cut a couple songs off. Yeah, I'm very, very excited about it. I think it sounds awesome. And like I said, I'm doing the whole thing myself, and I just feel really, really good about that. I'm going to start releasing singles as soon as I possibly can. Obviously dependent on how the reception of this album goes and if we should take a little bit of time in between the albums or if we should just hit the ground running. It's something I need to kind of like talk to the label about and get all of the logistics figured out. But as far as releasing new music, I'm ready to go. And then I have a couple other albums worth of music after that to start working on and recording. So yeah, there's tons of music ready to go, and I'm really excited about it.
So the final question, and you've had this before, so you knew it was coming. What music are you listening to at the moment that people may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
I forgot you were going to ask me this again.
You'll be ready when we do the third interview.
Yeah, exactly. I think I'll just shout out my fellow local scene friends that have been putting out some awesome music lately. People like Cam Cahan and Amelia Maxwell and Spins here in Toronto, putting out like awesome music. I'm a lot of the music I listen to these days are like my friends and people in the scene and, in my community who are putting out great records. So yeah, I would say those artists.
So for people wishing to find out more about Rise Carmine, check out the website, risecarmine.ca, and the socials, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Bandcamp. The latest album, Under the Red Light by Rise Carmine, is out now on Paperbag Records and can be found on Bandcamp and all streaming platforms. Liam, it's been a pleasure to have you back. Thanks for coming back on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me again. Always a pleasure.
And good luck with the album. And maybe this time next year we'll be talking about the next album.
Who knows? Sounds good.